Welcome to St. Louis Presents.
Debbie, it's good to see you. I feel like I've been neglecting you.
Really?
Yes.
You haven't brought me any flowers lately.
Oh, how'd you know that? Somebody the other day came up to me and said, "You remember last year you're always bringing Debbie stuff out of your garden.
Right.
You haven't done it this year."
Know.
So I don't have any flowers, but
Oh, you did?
sure.
Yum.
And Halloween's right around the corner, so those might be the last ones you get.
Oh, those look delicious.
Yeah, those are the first.
Well, thank you. No, we'll share with the audience
Okay.
during a break. How about that?
Hey, we're going to hear some new developments at the Biddle House. SLATE's working with the Biddle House, and they have some positive things to pass along.
Absolutely. And for people who've been wanting to start a business, if you have a great idea but you just don't know how to get started, Grace Hill has some great tips for us, and we'll tell you exactly how they might be able to help.
We're going to talk to somebody from St. Louis Recycling because it's good to recycle, Debbie, but did you know that you need to recycle properly?
Oh, I am a recycler, and people's inability to recycle properly is one of my pet peeves. So hopefully we'll have some great information to pass along.
This is going to help you psychologically.
Yes, please just do it correctly. All right, so all of that and more is coming up on this episode of St. Louis Presents, so stay with us. The Biddle House, a city-owned facility for the homeless, is getting a fresh start.
The St. Louis Agency on Training and Employment will now be providing services to help residents transition into employment and training.
And here to tell us more about this partnership and all that SLATE has to offer, we welcome to the show Shelly Jackson.
Thank you.
All right, so people may have been hearing about Biddle House. It is the homeless shelter that is just north of downtown St. Louis.
Yes.
And obviously a lot of people would like to transition from being homeless to no longer being homeless. And in that regard, employment is key. But it's always been, how do you get from point A to point B?
It sounds easy, but it's not.
It's not.
Exactly.
So first of all, talk about some of the barriers that someone who is staying at Biddle House might have to getting a job for the people who say, well, that's easy, just go get one.
Some of the barriers that the residents at the Biddle House have is not having proper identification, not having access to their social security card or birth certificate. Those are the three things that you most definitely need when you acquire employment, because you have to have those to fill out I-9 paperwork so that you can get paid when you get your job, as well as not having transportation. So if you get a job, you got to be able to get there. And those are the challenges and barriers that they have.
I guess we need to remember how people ended up in the Biddle House. They probably haven't been employed for a while in other life circumstances, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, I hadn't really thought about that. If you're homeless, where would you keep important papers like a birth certificate? So that probably takes a little bit of detective work too on the part of people at SLATE trying to track things down for people.
Yes, that is a challenge, and that is one of the things that we are trying to work through to figure out how we can best service them and help them get to the next step of finding employment.
So how do you, I imagine some people that you would be working with have been employed in the past, but maybe others have not. So are there different approaches to helping somebody find a job? Do some people need job training and more extensive help?
Some do. So what we do in that instance is we offer workshops, resume workshops, interview skills. In the interview skills workshop, it teaches you how to answer questions on the interview, the most common questions. And it also gives you suggestions on questions you can ask in your interview. So we do offer services to help prepare them for those. One of the residents from the Biddle House did come to our Workforce Wednesday yesterday. He's never worked, but I worked through him completing a application and what he could put on there and the best job that would work for him, not having that experience.
Is it important to, or as part of the job, finding employers that are willing to work with people who might not have a big resume? I mean, do you find employers that are willing to and know this ahead of time, and that's part of it?
We do have quite a few employers that are willing to work past the fact that some people just don't have that experience, and we do have quite a few that are willing to do that.
Are there a lot of jobs available in the city of St. Louis? Does SLATE have a big roster of available jobs?
Yes, we do. As I said, we have Workforce Wednesday. That's our holiday at SLATE, Workforce Wednesday, where we have employers that come in and they do on-the-spot interviews every Wednesday. There's a variety of employers that come. So not only do we have those employers, there are lists in what we call our MoJob system that employers can put jobs out there that they're looking to fill.
I'm almost surprised. That wasn't the answer I expected. I thought you were going to say, no, there aren't enough jobs.
Oh, no, there are plenty of jobs. It's just a matter of coming and receiving our services to help you find the job that you're looking for.
So talk a little bit about this partnership now with SLATE and Biddle House. SLATE is a city agency. Biddle House is also run by the city, so I guess that's a good fit. But how did it come about, and how long has that partnership been going on that SLATE has gone to Biddle House?
So SLATE has been going into the Biddle House since around March. We had our senior job developer, Olivia Adams, that was going to SLATE and providing those workshops that we provide at SLATE. She was actually doing those workshops in the Biddle House. So resume writing, interview skills, how to go and apply for a job online, how to complete a paper application. So that's been going on since March. It did get put on hold for a while, but we're trying to come back, and that was the whole reason for Workforce Empowerment Week.
Now, just because you live in the Biddle House doesn't mean you have to do this, right? This is something that people do voluntarily. And do you, as part of your job, motivating people at the Biddle House
Yes.
to be interested in it?
Yes, it is. And that was the one big thing for Empowerment Week, was that before we went in every day the first week of September. And at the start of it, we had a motivational speaker. So to encourage them not to give up, even though they're living in the Biddle House, they're in transition, still don't give up on your dream of finding employment or moving to the next phase of your life.
You know, it's really interesting talking to you, because there are a lot of people out there, when they think of someone at a homeless shelter, there may not be a lot of sympathy because they think, oh, well, just go and get a job. But hearing you talk, we talked about not having your birth certificate, because where would you keep it? But how most jobs you apply for online these days.
Well, they want your phone number.
So you don't have a computer, you don't have a printer, you don't have a phone. These are all real serious barriers.
Well, at SLATE, the one thing we work through is if they don't have a email address, we will assist them with creating an email address. If they need computer access, we have computers available for them to sit down and complete the application online, as well as search for jobs online.
I think there are about 100 people that live at Biddle House, more or less.
Yes.
Is there a time limit that a person can stay there?
That I'm not sure.
Is there anything that people might be able to do to help, like if they have equipment or jobs or anything that would be helpful for your mission to help these
Yes,
people
they
find
are more
employment?
than welcome to contact us at SLATE. And they can contact me, Shelley Jackson, and any services they want to offer. If they want to donate clothes, feel free to do so.
Excellent. Well, Shelley Jackson, thank you for telling us about the work at Biddle House, and we hope you fill lots of positions. You can see right there on the screen more information about SLATE, and their stlworks.com is the site to go to. We need to take a quick break, but we'll be right back with more news you can use here on St. Louis Presents.
Hey, let's check out this park. That's really cool.
To find a great local park or forest near you, go to discovertheforest.org.
Welcome back. The Grace Hill Women's Business Center is celebrating 20 years of helping entrepreneurs and is doing so in a brand new, more centralized location. Here to tell us about that and more is Alice Herndon. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Now, you were on Bissell. Where's the new location?
So our new location, we're currently located at 6722 Page Avenue in Pagedale, which is also a part of the 24/1 Collective Impact.
So 20 years, that's really amazing. I think, and you probably would know more about this than me, but it seems like so many people think they have a great idea for a business, but having a great idea or a great product is just not enough to get that business off the ground and running.
Right.
What are some of the things that, some of the biggest reasons you see for a business to fail, or some of the biggest things people need some guidance on when they come to you?
That's a great question. Some of the things that most women that come through our center that needs guidance on is marketing. How do you get your product in front of people, making sure that you're pricing it accurately or competitively, looking at your financials, knowing your cash flow, what the pro forma looks like, where the cash is coming in, where your expenditures are allocated. And when you don't know those things, that could put you in a position where you're not successful to be in business for more than 3 to 5 years. So that's the goal.
So I would imagine too that once a person decides they're going to start their own business and maybe they go to the library and they get a couple of books or something, and then they start thinking about all the things you just mentioned, it can be really overwhelming and intimidating. So maybe that stops them right there.
Our goal is not for a business owner to be intimidated. It can be easy as we say it, but when you actually have to do the work, that's where the work begins. Understanding the business, knowing what your target market is, knowing how to competitively price, just repeating those things over and over. But we work with you, one-on-one counseling. We also have ongoing training classes that will allow an entrepreneur to really focus on their business. So are you hiring the right person? Are you keeping your records? Are you maintaining? Are you filing your tax documents when they're supposed to be filed? All of that is really important and can support you in the success of your business as well.
Yeah, I love that when you say working with people one-on-one, because that's really important. I know even just putting together a business plan, somebody will say like, oh, I'm going to do this. Oh, do you have a business plan? No.
Most entrepreneurs don't think that they need a business plan. I know what I want to do, or I know how I want to do it. The business plan is really about assessing what you're doing and how you're doing it. You always want to start the business, but you want to make sure that the strategy is appropriate. If you need to implement new tactics, that's going to allow you to be successful, and when to pivot. Sometimes we get so stuck into a trend, we're going to get better at it. But in reality, what happens is you have to stand back and assess to see what you're doing and what changes you might need to make in the business so you can continue to thrive.
Now, given that it's under the umbrella of Grace Hill,
Yeah.
some people may be thinking, well, is this just for women in underserved communities? Who can take advantage of these services that you offer?
So the Women's Business Center, again, has been in business for 20 years. While we may say an underserved community, women at large are underserved. Women do not have a seat at the table when it comes to making business decisions or having access to capital or just having that opportunity. So regardless of the ethnic background or the culture, we want to support you in your business, that you can be successful in what you're doing.
Well, we've talked for years about women not having a seat at the table or hitting the glass ceiling, but
Yeah.
what better way to put yourself in the driver's seat than being the driver of your own business?
Absolutely. And we're funded through Small Business Administration. Grace Hill Settlement House allows us to be the vehicle at the Women's Business Center to promote how to best serve women in any aspect of their business. So if you're just getting started, we can assist you. If you're currently in business and you're looking for access to capital or wanting to expand, we can support you in that area as well.
What about mentorship? Because I imagine it's very helpful to talk to other women who have already taken that leap and run with it.
Yes, so mentorship is also a part of the work that we do that helps us. We have wonderful mentors that serve as our counselors that will work with you one-on-one. We have volunteers that come and do speaker series and training workshops that will also support you as well. So regardless of the topic, if it's financial, if it's hiring, if it's marketing, social media, which is a key component now, we can support you in any aspect of your business.
What would you say to a man who walks in? Is it for women only, or can they take advantage of those services as well?
So yeah, men can also take advantages of the services that we offer as well. While our primary target market are women, we have a non-disclosure that says men can come and learn from us as well. And I think it's really good that men can also learn from women and women can learn from men as it pertains to business success.
And I think it's important to remember how important small businesses are in our community,
Yes.
because we always focus on the Fortune 500 companies or the very large employers in our community, but really the reality is most people work for a small business.
That is correct. Small businesses drives the economic region for us. While we may look at a large corporation, it's those small businesses that create jobs, not just for themselves, but for other families. So those part-time jobs that also assist and help single shingles or single mothers to be successful, but we're constantly creating to support the region.
Well, Alice, thanks for the information today, and it's the Grace Hill Women's Business Center.
Yes.
In the new location on Page Avenue, and there's the information right there on the screen, gracehillwbc.org. Thank you so much for sharing all that with us today.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate our time today.
Now we have to turn our attention to Steve Potter, who has some news for us. Steve?
Thank you, Debbie. I like attention. And think about this. If an earthquake were to hit, would you be prepared? The Missouri statewide Shakeout Earthquake Drill is coming up on October the 18th, and registration is now open for individuals and groups to participate. Last year, more than 500,000 Missourians participated in the Shakeout Drill. This year, at exactly 10:18 a.m. on Thursday, October the 18th, participants will practice the drop, cover, hold on technique. You can find more information on earthquake preparedness and sign up for the 2018 Shakeout at shakeout.org/centralus. St. Louis was recently named in the Sierra Club's new report showcasing 10 U.S. cities that have made ambitious commitments to be powered with 100% clean, renewable energy. St. Louis was featured for being the largest city in the Midwest to adopt a 100% clean energy goal. Last year, the city's Board of Aldermen passed a resolution committing to the transition to 100% clean energy by 2035. The Fox Performing Arts Charitable Foundation is ready for the next group of talented teens to compete in the 9th annual St. Louis Teen Talent Competition. The competition is open to all high school students who are currently enrolled in school and live within 50 miles of the Gateway Arch. Teens with all talents are welcome, including singers, actors, musicians, dancers, comedians, bands, circus performers, or any other specialty act. Students will be competing for college scholarships, cash awards, prizes, and public appearance opportunities. Online registration will remain open through December the 1st, and if you'd like more information, and if you'd like to register, go to pacf.org. Author Anders Walker recently held a book signing and discussion of his latest work, The Burning House, which re-examines the Jim Crow era. After the discussion, STL-TV's Tim Lampley sat down with the author. Let's take a look at this.
In writing this book, the lens you were using to look through it, how did you do that? What were you thinking as you were trying to give people a good image of what we're talking about?
So what I was thinking is, that not everybody in the South, and here my personal story is I was born in San Jose, California. But when I was 7 years old, my family moved to Thomasville, Georgia. And when I grew up in Thomasville in 1979, we moved there. We left in 1999. The people that I grew up with didn't belong to the Klan. They didn't use the N-word. They didn't believe in people like George Wallace. But they also didn't necessarily believe in equality or an egalitarian society. And so in trying to write this book, I tried to recover, well, what did they think they were doing in the 1920s and 30s and 40s and 50s? And who would be the best people to look to find that out? And I decided it would probably be some of your most successful writers because they're educated. People like George Wallace were not that educated. It would be people like William Faulkner, who had a big following in the North, and that these were folks who are going to cast their story in their region in a aspirational light. And sure enough, if you read Southern Lit, it's hard to escape this argument that the South was culturally rich. And in story after story, in Faulkner and Warren and Welty, there's an appreciation for African American culture and history.
You can watch the entire book discussion and more of Anders' one-on-one with Tim right here on STL TV and on our YouTube channel.
Do you recycle? I hope that's a yes,
I do,
everyone.
I do.
Or maybe a better question is, do you recycle correctly?
Oh, that's a sticky point. And why is it important to recycle properly? Well, our next guest can answer that question and more.
And would you please welcome Alicia Muchamechi.
Hello, thanks for having me.
I'm a little paranoid now about if I'm recycling correctly.
You know, it used to be that you had to separate everything. You had to put your paper here, your plastics here, you know, everything had to be separate. But now single stream recycling in St. Louis City has made it super easy, and yet people are doing it wrong.
You don't put tuna fish in with glass.
They do. So what are the impacts of people recycling all of the wrong things or doing it improperly?
Sure, so single stream recycling does make it really easy. So that's what we have at our curbside if you have a roll cart, or for a lot of us that live in the city, that's the blue dumpster in your alley. So that means you can put all your paper, cardboard, we want flattened cardboard, plastic bottles and containers, metal cans and bottles, as well as gable top containers. So you can put all of those items into one bin, which makes it easy. But if you start putting other things that aren't recyclable, that don't fit into those categories, like plastic bags, that ends up being a contaminant. And what that means is it may not be recyclable through our system, but there could be another home for it. So it'll either get mixed in with the paper, or plastic bags in particularly clog the machinery at the material recovery facility, shutting down operations.
So am I understanding it right? Is there no one going through my recycle bin?
There are a few people, but it's a very, very fast process. So one of the things with a lot of what we've been hearing about recycling in the news is we really just need to clean up what we're putting in the bin. And that's sticking to that list of those kind of six items that you should be putting in your bin. And if it's not on that list, either leave it out or visit our website where we have a more expanded list and even a database where you can search for what you're trying to get rid of.
One of the things that I see is people will take their newspapers or those free things that show up on your porch that you don't want, and they just toss them with the plastic bag in the bin. That plastic bag can't get recycled, right?
Not through our regular single stream bins. That plastic bags, as well as other plastic films like newspaper bags or bread bags, those can go back to the grocery store. Even the air packs, or like those big pillows that come around packaging, you can just deflate those and take them back to the grocery store as well for recycling.
What about when people are just throwing their, cans and jars in the recycling without rinsing them out,
I've always wondered about that.
Right. So, we really say don't think too much about it. We want items to be loose, clean, and dry. So that means they should be empty. If you can't get any tuna out of the can, it's empty. If you want to give it a quick rinse so you don't have tuna smell in your kitchen, that's fine. Just leave the label on. You don't even need to peel that off. If you're drinking a bottle of water and you can't get any more water out of the bottle, just put the cap back on and recycle it. What we don't want is a half full bottle of water or a half thing of Gatorade in there, because that's the liquid that's going to contaminate other things.
You know, I remember back years ago, I didn't start recycling as soon as I should have, because back when it was more complicated, and I feel bad about that. But it's so much easier now with these bins. But you're making the point that there are still a lot of things we should keep in mind when we're using these. So where do we go? Is there a list of do's and don'ts?
Sure. So on the St. Louis City Recycles website, which is stlcityrecycles.com, right there on our homepage, we have the 6 things you should be recycling and the 5 things you really shouldn't.
Oh, it's that simple. I thought there might be 20 things.
No, but if if you're used to recycling a lot and you have more questions, you just click that image right there, and then we have a even more expanded list of what goes in each bin for everyone in the city. So it's really simple, but we try to get everyone just to focus on the common recyclables, because as long as we're not putting plastic lawn chairs in our blue bins or hoses or plastic bags, if we can keep out what's not recyclable in our system, that's really going to help improve the process overall.
Now, when you talk about contamination, I've been reading a lot about communities getting rid of single stream because of the contamination. There's not as much of a market for it, because I didn't realize much of our paper has been purchased by China. And they don't want it anymore because it's not pure enough. There's too much contamination in it, so they won't take it. And so if for no other reason, I guess, Alicia, people should think there have to be markets for this recycling, so make sure that you're doing the best job you can.
Exactly. So here in the Midwest, all of our stuff had a place. The market was good. But when China stopped accepting those materials from the coastal cities, all the coastal cities started sending all their materials to our area. So that kind of flooded our market, and recycling is a business. So there's a surplus of material, how much money you're gonna make on it is gonna go down. And why China decided to do that was the tolerance for contamination went to 0. They didn't want, 20% trash in their paper when they're trying to make new things, just like our processors here don't want that either. So we really need to make sure that we're putting the proper things in our bins, so then our recovery facility can sort everything with ease and we can keep those contaminants out.
You say recycling is a business, and it is, but also, it's the right thing to do.
It really is, because the material, when we say it's recyclable, it means it has useful life. So if you're sending something to the landfill, that means there's no other life left in that. Whereas, an aluminum can be recycled nearly endlessly, and it'll be back on the shelf in 30 days.
All right, one thing you said, though, was to put the lid back on the bottle. So I always thought that you couldn't recycle the lids. I always throw them away.
So that was before we got the new technology. So the new technology, you're allowed to just put the lid right back on the bottle, so it has a buddy to travel with as it goes through the sorting facility.
All right.
We all need
I'll
a
have
buddy,
to
yeah.
stop scolding my family then.
And if you want other tips and tricks, I suggest following us on social media. So St. Louis City Recycles, it's at STL City Recycles.
Are most people recycling, do you think?
We think so. The participation rate is pretty high throughout the city, and we all know we can do a little bit better. So we want to make sure everyone's utilizing their bins.
Well, thank you so much for the information, and we certainly hope that we've inspired people to just take a second look at what they're recycling and make sure they're doing it properly. And we hope you've enjoyed this episode of St. Louis Presents.
I want to thank all our guests today and all of you at home for watching.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.